Imagine a ruler so utterly depraved and out of touch that the entire establishment of his vast domain moved to wipe him from memory entirely. Not merely assassinate him, but obliterate every monument bearing his likeness, scrape his name from public inscriptions, and pretend he had never ruled at all. This is the fate that befell a young emperor named Varius. He ascended the throne at just 14 years of age. By 18, his own guards had ended his life, mutilated his remains, paraded his nude body through the capital's avenues, and dumped it into the city's drains like common refuse. What acts could provoke such universal revulsion? He wedded one of the empire's most hallowed figures, a guardian of eternal flame whose vows of purity were the bedrock of civic sanctity, equivalent to defiling a lifelong devotee in the heart of the state's most revered shrine, and he consummated that union in a spectacle before the assembled elite. He transformed the grand residence of power into a den of paid encounters, where he himself offered services to high-ranking officials for coin. He promised vast territories and fortunes to any physician capable of reshaping his body into that of a woman. And he sought to supplant the traditional deities of the realm with an enigmatic dark stone idol imported from his distant homeland. His name was Varius. And if you've heard tales of infamous rulers like the mad tyrant who preceded him in notoriety, with his excesses, wild gatherings, and cruel whims, know this, that earlier figure seems almost restrained and virtuous by comparison. For nearly 2 millennia, scholars have wrestled with whether Varius's exploits were genuine or largely fabricated by his enemies to rationalize his violent removal. The surviving accounts from contemporaries and later compilations agree on the core events, though embellishments abound. Yet what unsettles most deeply about Varius is that his actions stemmed not from calculated malice or delight in others' suffering. He appears to have sincerely viewed his choices as enlightened, as pathways to spiritual elevation, as divine expressions of his true self. He seemed bewildered by the widespread disdain, which somehow heightens the tragedy. The empire did not eliminate a gleeful despot, but a youth who fancied himself a visionary guide. 3 possible sets of names for the key figures. Option 1: Teen Emperor Varius, Grandmother Eleanor Hale, Mother Sophia Hale, Cousin Benjamin Hale, Favored Partner Marcus, Rival Lover Titus, Sacred Guardian Clara Voss. Option 20: Emperor Lucian, Grandmother Margaret Voss, Mother Lydia Voss, Cousin Theodore Voss. Favored Partner Adrian, Rival Lover Cornelius, Sacred Guardian Beatrice Lang. Option 30: Emperor Aurelian, Grandmother Victoria Lang, Mother Alina Lang, Cousin Edmund Lang. Favored Partner Julian, Rival Lover Felix, Sacred Guardian Amelia Reed. I'll proceed with Option 1: Teen Emperor Varius, Grandmother Eleanor Hale, Mother Sophia Hale, Cousin Benjamin Hale, Favored Partner Marcus, Rival Lover Titus, Sacred Guardian Clara Voss. But one particular choice pushed even his own grandmother, Eleanor Hale, the shrewd matriarch who had engineered his rise, to conclude that Varius could no longer be allowed to reign. To grasp that pivotal moment, we must first explore how a figure like Varius ever claimed the imperial seat. His background was far removed from the capital's traditions. Raised in a remote eastern province, he had served from childhood as a dancer and ritual performer in a temple devoted to a solar deity represented by a mysterious black stone, conducting elaborate ceremonies involving animal offerings that would have shocked the empire's conventional sensibilities. He had scant familiarity with the capital's language, customs, politics, or military heritage. Yet at 14, he was proclaimed ruler. The architect of this improbable ascent was his grandmother, Eleanor Hale. A woman of immense experience and connections, having spent decades navigating the corridors of power during previous regimes, she possessed intimate knowledge of influential commanders and court intrigues. When a short-lived usurper banished her family to their provincial homeland, Eleanor resolved to reclaim influence through her grandson. She spread rumors among the troops that Varius was the secret offspring of a beloved former emperor, carrying legitimate bloodlines. The soldiers, eager for change and rewards, embraced the claim, rose in revolt, overthrew the usurper, and in the year equivalent to our 218, the young temple priest entered the capital as ruler, accompanied by his sacred stone, exotic attendants, and clouds of incense that overwhelmed the senses of the assembled dignitaries. The capital anticipated a youthful but moldable leader who would grow into responsibility. Instead, they encountered a whirlwind of unfamiliar practices. On his very first evening in the palace, Varius hosted a lavish gathering that dissolved into unrestrained revelry, involving courtiers, attendants, and guests from all walks. Many dismissed it as youthful exuberance, recalling past rulers who had indulged wildly before settling into governance. They hoped he would mature. That hope proved misplaced. Soon after, Varius declared his intent to marry, not a suitable alliance from nobility or abroad, but Clara Voss, one of the empire's most revered guardians of the eternal flame, women sworn to lifelong chastity whose purity was believed essential to the state's prosperity. Breach of their vows traditionally meant burial alive. No prior ruler had dared such a union. Varius not only wedded Clara but celebrated the consummation publicly before the Council of Elders. When challenged, he insisted it was a divine pairing that would produce offspring of extraordinary virtue. The outrage was profound. Traditionalists demanded severe punishment. Varius, as supreme overseer of rites, declared his authority absolute. If he deemed it holy, it was so. This delusion stunned observers. Yet Varius soon tired of the arrangement, divorcing Clara and pursuing others in rapid succession, 5 unions in 4 years, treating sacred bonds as fleeting amusements, eroding centuries-old customs. These marriages, however, masked deeper desires. Varius's true inclinations lay elsewhere, with male companions. He converted sections of the palace into venues for intimate paid encounters, but positioned himself not as patron but as participant, adorning private chambers lavishly, stationing himself at entrances in provocative attire, enhanced with cosmetics and elaborate hairpieces. Visitors reported overwhelming scents of exotic perfumes that lingered for days. He accepted payment from officials, guardsmen, anyone granted access, not for need, as the treasury was his, but for the experience of submission and transaction. Accounts describe him boasting of nightly tallies, even challenging professional companions to competitions of allure, beaming with pride at victories. Among his partners, one stood out: Marcus, a rugged charioteer of humble origins, strong and commanding. Varius bestowed upon him affectionate titles of partnership, lavish gifts, properties, and privileges, even seating him prominently during formal assemblies. Reports suggest Marcus occasionally displayed dominance physically, leaving marks that Varius wore openly the next day with evident satisfaction, interpreting it as profound affection aligned with his self-perception. This leads to the most profoundly unsettling aspect. Varius did not merely adopt feminine roles in private. He yearned for permanent transformation. He reportedly pledged immense rewards to any healer who could alter his form completely, consulting experts empire-wide, even attempting self-modification. Frustrated by limitations of the era, he resorted to daily grooming rituals, full-body depilation, varied wigs, cosmetics mimicking courtesans, silken garments, jewels, and insisted on feminine forms of address: mistress, over, master. Refusals led to public shaming, forcing objectors into similar attire during official proceedings, turning personal conviction into enforced spectacle. While the elite grappled with these personal eccentricities, Varius launched an assault on the spiritual foundations. As hereditary overseer of his homeland's solar cult, he arrived with a vision to elevate his deity's Blackstone above all others, particularly the traditional chief god. He erected a magnificent new sanctuary on the palace grounds, installing the stone at its heart. He relocated cherished relics from established shrines, eternal flames, ancestral shields, protective icons, subordinating them as attendants to his idol. priests viewed this not as mere preference but as existential threat. If protective divinities abandoned the realm, catastrophe loomed. Varius pressed further, staging symbolic unions for his deity, first with a wisdom goddess, then a lunar one, complete with grand processions, sacrifices, and mandatory attendance by the elite, who knelt before the stone despite inner turmoil. Noncompliance risked ruin. How did this persist for 4 years? Varius's distractions extended to inventive cruelties masked as entertainment. At elite dinners, amid music and feasting, he might unleash wild animals, leopards, bears, serpents, causing panic and occasional fatalities, observing with amusement. One notorious evening involved suspending vast quantities of flower petals overhead. Released mid-meal, they cascaded endlessly, burying guests beneath suffocating weight. Some perished unable to escape. Varius watched serenely from an elevated seat. This incident crystallized Eleanor's fears. Varius showed no signs of restraint or growth. For the realm's survival, he had to go. By the later years, discontent simmered. Eleanor, sensing the shift, groomed her other grandson, 13-year-old Benjamin Hale, modest, dutiful, embodying expected virtues as alternative heir. She publicized his adoption, signaling a preferable path. Varius, perceiving the threat, attempted eliminations, assassins, tainted meals, but loyal guards shielded Benjamin, having chosen sides. In early spring of his final year, the guards acted, encircling the palace. Varius, hearing the clamor, fled not to defenses but to a private chamber, cowering. They discovered him swiftly, adorned in finery and cosmetics, pleading desperately with promises of wealth and position. Unmoved, they ended his mother Sophia first as she shielded him, forcing him to witness. Then him. But vengeance extended beyond death. Mutilation to erase scandalous associations, stripping, public dragging through familiar streets, once sites of his triumphs, amid crowds' jeers and assaults. Finally, disposal in the main sewer amid waste, denied honorable rest. The council decreed formal erasure, monuments defaced, records altered, as if he never existed. 4 years of turmoil nearly obliterated. Yet debates endure. Monster or misguided youth? Thrust into unlimited authority at 14, unprepared by upbringing focused on ritual dance rather than governance, diplomacy, or command. An empire venerating martial prowess and stoicism received a ruler embracing fluidity, foreign worship, nonconformity. They annihilated him for it, not solely death, but attempted obliteration. They failed. Centuries later, his tale endures, a legend defying erasure. The ultimate defiance of the boy they sought to forget, now the ruler most vividly recalled. To flesh this out further, consider the early days in the province. Varius grew up amid temple courtyards filled with chanting attendants, learning intricate dances that mimicked celestial movements, handling sacred animals for offerings, all under the shadow of the black stone, said to have fallen from the heavens. His family, prominent locally, instilled in him a sense of divine destiny. Eleanor, visiting often, saw potential in his charisma, the way crowds gathered for his performances. When opportunity arose post-usurper, she orchestrated meetings with disgruntled officers, distributing funds discreetly, weaving narratives of hidden lineage. The rebellion unfolded swiftly, battles in dusty plains, Varius observing from afar, stone and Tau on a protected cart. Arrival in the capital was triumphant yet ominous. Crowds cheered the new sovereign hope, but whispers spread about the foreign entourage. Initial audiences, Varius on the throne in eastern silks, incense burning, speaking haltingly through interpreters. Early reforms seemed benign, generous donations to troops, festivals blending styles. But cracks appeared. A senator recounting first private audience, Varius inquiring curiously about customs, then dismissing them lightly. On Clara Voss, she was renowned for devotion, selected young for the order. The marriage announcement stunned. Some sources suggest coercion, others genuine belief in symbolic union of rights. Post-divorce, Clara faded from records, perhaps spared due to imperial protection initially. Multiple marriages, each lavish, short-lived. one to a noblewoman for political calm, quickly abandoned. Various reportedly confided to close attendants his boredom with conventional roles. The palace transformations detailed accounts of scented halls, musicians playing exotic tunes, various circulating, engaging personally, senators navigating awkwardly, balancing participation against reputation. Marcus's rise discovered during games, his victory thrilling, various. Elevation rapid, from stables to inner circles. Jealousies brewed, the incident with rival Titus, a well-endowed athlete, scouted deliberately. Marcus allegedly arranged a sedative, leading to Titus's fall from favor, exile. Gender expressions, daily routines involving specialists for hair removal, makeup application. Public demands escalating, courtiers compelled to adopt elements, creating absurd scenes in assemblies. Religious shifts, the new temple's construction massive, disrupting palace layout. Processions stone on ornate vehicle, various dancing ahead backward, facing, as tradition demanded. Relics relocation caused protests, priests petitioning futilely. Creative entertainments, another tale of flooded halls with wine for mock naval battles, guests struggling comically then dangerously. Or inverted ceilings releasing surprises, snakes, treasures, animals. Eleanor's pivot private conversations with Benjamin, tutoring unexpected behaviors. Public appearances contrasting, Benjamin modest, various extravagant final days, paranoia mounting, failed plots. The assault detailed chaos, loyalists falling, Various's desperate hiding, maternal sacrifice. Aftermath, Benjamin's reign restorative, traditional rites revived, stone returned. Eleanor's continued influence until her passing. Reflections, power's corrupting force on youth, cultural clashes in diverse empire, intolerance for difference. Various as both perpetrator of unforgivable acts, desecration, humiliation, deaths, and product of circumstances, a confused adolescent in mismatched role, expanded dialogues. Imagine a Senate session where Various, in flowing garments, addresses skeptics. Why cling to outdated shadows when true light reveals itself? Responses muted, seething, or intimate moment with Marcus. Bruises visible, Various smiling. This mark proves our bond's depth. Clara's perspective torn between fear and fascination with his conviction. Eleanor's internal conflict, pride in grandson's boldness turning to dread. Crowd reactions during parade's initial curiosity, growing resentment. Soldiers' mutterings, bonuses welcomed, but embarrassment over leaders' displays. These layers reveal a complex era of transition, where personal identity collided with institutional expectations, leaving echoes through time.